Yes, I have a problem with creators selling courses, not because all of them are garbage. There are some very useful, great courses. We're actually going to talk about some of them in this video, but there's a plethora of courses that provide terrible value for the audience. And the creators think that this is a very quick way for them to monetize the skills and experience that they garner. And instead, they barely monetize their content that they put into those courses. And the worst part is that they actually ruin their relationship with their audience. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the best practices and how to conceptually think about whether you are working on a valuable course that, yes, you should go and sell to your audience, or you're creating something that will torpedo potentially a decade worth of your hard work because you will completely ruin the relationship with your audience. The first important item I want to address today is the whole concept of the value creation with your audience. I think it's important for you to always think about, are you creating incrementally more value for your audience? Because ultimately that's why they're there. I've spoken before in some of my videos, there are roughly 3 types of value that the viewer seeks. They seek to be entertained, they seek to be educated, or they seek to be informed. And your content provides the value towards one of those categories. Now, when it comes to specifically any kind of action, whether it's creating videos, whether it's providing some sort of like additional advice, I always think about this concept of the value piggy bank. So essentially, when you think about the value flow, any kind of like content, engagement, free products, if you provide any, this is how you contribute to the value piggy bank, right? If the audience came to you to be educated and you provide content that educates them, you contributed to the piggy bank. You have some sort of engagement, you responded to the comments, maybe you had some live stream where you just did a Q&A, or you did some meetup in person, you contributed to the piggy bank. Or again, if you're teaching them, educating them something, and you have some sort of like a handout book that you offer in PDF for free as a download, you provided the value. So you continuously accumulate value through your engagement with the audience in that piggy bank. And any kind of like call to action, whether it is subscribe, whether it is comment, whether it is go buy something, buy my course, you're extracting the value from that piggy bank. And the way you kind of like have to consider this is that the price of these actions will determine how much value you extract. So if you're selling them an item that is $5, it's going to extract very little amount of value from this piggy bank versus if you're going to go ahead and sell them $1,000 course. So this is one of those first mistakes that many creators make, where they've contributed a certain amount of value. They've extracted a ton of it through selling a particular course. And if that course immediately didn't offer enough of the value to make up for that, extraction of value from the piggy bank, you immediately ruin the relationship because your audience will feel like you screwed them over and you essentially took their cash without providing anything incrementally. So anytime you think about the value extraction and the kind of call to actions, things that you're selling to your audience, ideally what you sell to them augments or expands the value that you provide and immediately almost like makes up for that extraction of value from the piggy bank. Almost imagine like if you sold them a course, and we'll talk a little bit more about this whole concept, but ideally that course immediately helps them to provide back some of the value. So almost like feels like they got a bargain. They got something for you, if not for free, but something incrementally so much more valuable than the amount of money that they paid. I hope it makes sense. This is like a core concept for any product development, but especially for the courses, because I see this is one of the first places where it falls apart, because the content of some of those courses and the amount of money that the creator charges for it can be substantially more than the actual value that the audience gains from it. So it like ruins and pretty much depletes the entire value that you've worked so hard to create through years of potentially content, engagement, and some freebies that you gave out here and there. Now, with that concept kind of like set in place, now that we're on the same page, this is where I start having issues with many courses. And we'll talk about specifically 3 categories of courses and definitely one to avoid. But anytime you think about the course, I start having an issue with a course sold by a creator if that course doesn't provide immediately some sort of value, or if not immediately, at least in the short term. You never want to have a course that takes years and months to potentially, return some sort of value back to the audience, and you charge thousands of dollars for it, right? You always have to consider that balance of how quickly can my audience realize the value from the course that I sold to them based on the amount of money I charged. But If you want very specific examples, I actually have for you 3 categories of courses, and I'll kind of like talk you through it and explain some of the ones to avoid and some of the mistakes that people make. But the first one, and it's kind of like the biggest category that I say, if you're a creator who is thinking about creating that course, don't. I know the money's there. I know you'll be excited to potentially, make some additional revenue, but I promise you, it's going to ruin your relationship with your audience. It's going to ruin your reputation, and it's going to ruin years worth of work. And specifically, the type of courses I'm talking about are our all-time favorite grifters. So this is the most famous of them, right? The grifter of all grifters, Andrew Tate. And this is a great example of the type of course community that essentially offers a lot of loud proclamations in terms of things that can be accomplished that realistically cannot be accomplished, like making a millionaire immediately, having tutors that are also millionaires, basically things that cannot be fact checked easily. But primarily, the biggest thing I usually have an issue with are the stock type of a business type of finance courses. Very specific type ones. Like, I'm not talking about specific skills. We're going to talk about specific skills in a second. I talk about the kind of courses that promise you that you're going to immediately make $30,000 every month after completing that course. Maybe the creator of that course at some point made $30,000 a month, and it was kind of like this situation, flash in the pan. It worked for a second, and now they no longer make it. Because why on earth someone who came up with a particular stock picking strategy or some sort of business strategy that makes them millions of dollars would go and sell them to you for a few $100? Why would they do that? They should just go and keep using that strategy and make millions of dollars. The only time those people sell courses like this is when that strategy no longer makes them money or never made them money in the first place. And their actual money-making strategy is selling folks courses. This is one of those grifts that hopefully a lot of people are familiar, but there's still more and more young generations coming in on scene, new subscribers and viewers who don't understand this dynamic, and they fall for these kind of things and they waste their money. And at the end of the day, don't see any value. So you trying to sell this kind of course puts you in the bucket with folks like this. If you don't mind it, you do you, but I'm here to help creators build a long-lasting, sustainable creator brand. This is not how you do it. This is how you very quickly tarnish your reputation and essentially kill any prospects for you to be able to build something sustainable long-term that would also generate the trust from the audience. This is how you make a quick buck and you disappear. If you want to do it, do it. But this is like the worst strategy to approach it. And again, I just wanted to throw a couple of stones at those creators who make those kind of like stock picking investment strategy courses, because like anytime I see it, BS, like immediately I discount. And I have very specific opinion about the creators who post those kind of things. Again, we'll come back and I'll extend the olive branch to some of the financial creators and influencers out there, but don't be like those people. Specifically like these real world academies, because you're entering a very bad world. The second type of courses that I want to talk about, they're a little bit better, but I have my issues with them as well. I'll use the example of the part-time YouTube Academy. I call these general purpose courses. Essentially, general purpose courses, they're not very specific to a very, like niche skill, but rather they're amalgamation, they're a compilation of information that's available out there on the internet for free in just something that's a little bit more succinct and maybe easy to follow. Instead of you, if say you're someone who wants to become a YouTuber and you're starting it, you might have to go and like browse channel after channel, video after video for months to find the right type of content and hopefully the best advice possible to accumulate enough knowledge to become an effective creator, right? That's one strategy. That's something I've done. Courses like this offer you essentially an opportunity to shortcut some of these things and say, hey, instead of you spending months finding that content, potentially watching content that is not as useful or doesn't have the correct information, come here, we're experts, we compiled all this information. It's a single course. It's easy for you to follow. Zero issue with that outline. It's actually, I think I find it helpful for certain types of hobbies or specific things where, again, time might be at the premium. So your viewer might be willing to pay a little bit extra upfront to shortcut and save some time and go find this information in a single place. Again, assumption is the person who creates this course actually understands the subject. So for you as a creator, hopefully you understand the subject enough to provide valuable information by compiling all of that free available information to a single course. Issues that I have with these kind of courses usually come down to a price. Love Ali Abdaal, great guy, honestly, one of my favorite creators. I'm not very fond of the fact that what is our latest and greatest price for this? $1,000. That he's currently selling this course for $1,000. Used to be, I think, north of $2,000. I have an issue with this because remember when I said how ideally you want to think about that formula of like how much value you're extracting from the piggy bank, how much value the viewer, the person who buys the course, can generate back and put into the piggy bank, and how much it costs. In my opinion, this formula is completely thrown off with this kind of course, and specifically part-time YouTuber Academy. Like, I'll call it out, and I've used it as an example before with all my love for Ali, is that it will take potentially years for anyone who consumes this course to truly realize the value. Yes, they'll get some basics in terms of like the setup of the channel, setup of the, gear and all that stuff. That's going to be immediate, but the majority of the value that that kind of course provides really yields itself over the months and years. And so when you charge $1,000 for something that's going to take this long, I feel like you're just completely overcorrecting on the price point. It worked out great for Ali. They've made like 2 to 3 million British pounds, I want to say, annually on this course for the past like 5-6 years. So clearly there are people who are buying it. I have a problem with this course because I've seen the content in it. I have friends who took it that showed me some of the things in there. They didn't share any files. So, we didn't steal anything from Ali, but it's like they showed me some of the curriculum and some of the things that they covered, and like the length to which the value is going to be extracted from this course was way too long. So if you are someone who creates this kind of a course, and it's going to be a bunch of basic skills that can be, and the content that can be easily found online for free, I don't think you should be charging thousands of dollars, right? Unless, again, it's some very specific niche, and it might take years and years to actually find individual pieces of this content, which is not true. Even the most complex topics today, you can find easily the content online, right, for free. The universities publish it. Harvard Business School publishes it. Like, there's so many schools today that publish curriculums and courses for free. I don't think you have good ground to stand on when you would try to charge thousands of dollars for this kind of a course. I think a couple of $100, right? Like a price like this is more reasonable for this compilation of the course, because again, this is kind of the amount of, I think, fair value that you're extracting from your audience. Anything more than that, you're potentially really penny pinching from them, right? Again, you can argue and say, but it took me a long time to produce it. I have people who we hired to do all of those things. That's a fair point, but that's why you kind of have to balance it. I think Hayden Hillier-Smith is another good example. Hayden has his course, which is kind of like touches on some of the basics of editing, but also goes into some of the in-depth stuff. If I recall correctly, he charges about $300 for it. I think he's right on the edge of it, but Hayden has very deep knowledge and understanding of editing of the YouTube videos. So I think that's kind of like factored in a premium, right? If it's like the fair value for someone a little bit more amateur or maybe just added editor would be like $200 to $100. I think Hayden charging up to like $300 or maybe a little bit more is justified because he has so much of that knowledge that he can embed beyond just those basic skills. So the creator who would take that course would extract the value pretty quickly, and also add some of those extra perks from the fact that they now learn from someone who've been editing for YouTube specifically for the past decade. So those are kind of like two examples, right? You have Hayden, who I think is a better example of the more general knowledge course that you can acquire at, I think, more reasonable price. And unfortunately, Part-Time YouTube Academy, which I think is way overpriced for the amount of value that it provides. So if you as a creator kind of like debating which side to go on, again, you can try and attempt to go Ali Abdaal's route, overcharge. Again, I think you're risking the value that you generated with the audience. You're risking that reputation with them. I'd rather you to stay on the more conservative price side and extract more opportunities from it over the longer period of time, rather than trying to make a quick cash grab with a high price ticket item for something that can generally be found online for free. And finally, the courses I have probably the least amount of issues with, and this is kind of like the reason I wanted to kind of like build them in categories. The course that I think is valuable enough or specific enough that can warrant like, $1,000, $2,000 price point as courses and skills are courses that teach you skills that are very specific. They're very specific to a very unique, maybe niche or something that you cannot easily acquire out there, right? You're going to have to find very specialized individuals who've done that specialized type of work and learn from them, which is not readily available always. Those courses, I actually am okay to see being priced at a higher level because of the fact that it's so hard to find that information, or it's possible, but it's going to take a long period of time, and finding very specialized individuals who might not have time for you or to educate you, right, with this kind of content. And the individuals who I think doing okay with their course, funny enough, they learned from Ali as well, and Ali was kind of like the individual who taught them a lot of those things. Those are Colin and Samir. So Colin and Samir had this like creator startup. I still hate for the fact that they managed to snatch that name, because I was like, I should have come up with it very early. But anyway, it has Samir's hands all over it. He's good when it comes to this kind of branding. Kudos to the man. But again, specifically what I'm thinking about is a Creator Startup Pro, because this was the original one, growth playbook, and 50 ideas to generate like that. That's something new that they're creating. Specifically, what I like about their Creator Startup approach is that when they were developing this specific course, the whole idea was, we are creating the course for monetizing creators who already made brand deals and who want to improve the quality of the brand deals, the amount that they can charge for it, and how they go about actually negotiating those deals with the brands. I like this approach because it's very specific. It teaches a very specific skill that not always easy to find unless you're talking to like managers and agents who've done it for years, right? And Colin and Samir, they've negotiated their own deals. They work with their representatives to kind of like negotiate the deals, so they really understand it. And they have very clear vision when it comes to the brand identity, how to pitch the brand identity, how to create long-term relationship with a lot of their brand partners, right? Famously, Samsung was their like first major brand partner who signed up with them for 2 years, which essentially floated their channel and allowed them to spend time to succeed and create what we see today in the Colin and Samir brand, all thanks to that one long-term deal. So like they clearly understand how to build that. And besides that, coming back to my piggy bank and that whole cycle and how quickly you can extract the value, the best part about this kind of course, because it teaches you how to negotiate the brand deal, right? And how to kind of extract the most out of it. You as a creator can go take that course, turn around at your next brand deal, apply those skills, and potentially make all the money back, right? If you're on average, I don't know, your last couple of deals were like $2,000 per month, you paid $2,000 to Colin and Samir, and you doubled your next brand deal, there you go. You immediately saw the return on your investment. And so any subsequent deal from then on, you're just like piling up money in terms of the return on that investment. This is a great example of the course that can justify the high price tag, because again, it's very specific. It teaches you the skill that can be a lot harder to find out there for free. And it also allows you to gain that return on the investment almost immediately. So as a creator, when you're thinking about the kind of courses you want to create, if you are planning to invest a lot in the production of that course, make sure it's this kind of a specific course that is hard to find and will take time individually, right, to acquire it for free. And then make sure there's some way that the viewer, the purchaser of that course, can quickly see that return on the investment, right, in the cycle of that piggy bank value that I showed earlier. Or if you're not necessarily in a position, or you're not planning to invest a lot in a specific course that you're creating, and you're providing more general information, like a compilation of all of your experiences of the past decade in the specific industry that you want to share about, I would suggest for you to lean more on the lower end, charge only a couple of $100, maybe $300 for that course. Ensure you proportionally invest in the creation of it, so you do see as a creator positive ROI on that kind of enterprise. But ultimately, don't create something for thousands of dollars in that category, because I don't think it will be warranted unless, again, you may be some very specific industry expert. And yes, that's the general information, but it's very specific, and it can see that return for your buyers almost immediately. So those are kind of like the categories and the way I think about it. And this is where I'll extend the olive branch to my finance influencers, stock traders, and folks like this, who there are quite a few great creators in that space who provide great content on YouTube. I would recommend to those folks to stay away from like the trading strategy courses that clearly, promise some sort of like a crazy return on investment, which in reality probably never happened, right? Or happened maybe once and never did since then, and that's why you're selling a course. Stick to something more specific. I don't know, stick to something like a course on how to use a Bloomberg terminal, a complete course on understanding the options and puts and the risk of it and derivatives. Something that, again, can potentially be acquired out there, but maybe you have to go to the business school and shell out like north of $100,000 in student payments just to get that knowledge. Create those courses that are very specific, very specialized. Someone say, if they're trying to get into options trading, they can go study your course, turn around, start selling and trading in options, right? Or any other class of derivatives. Any specific skills, any specific knowledge that is a little bit hard to acquire. I started my career in finance. I have zero clue how to use a Bloomberg terminal. If I'm into that and I have access to one, that's an interesting course for me, right? Anything that is very specialized or something that the buyer can go turn around and apply immediately and see a yield or improvement in their income potential or some other project that they're working on, absolutely fine with it. Finance creators, stock traders, go and sell those kind of courses. This is my like olive branch. In those areas, stay from false claims, stick to something very specific. And across the board, if you as a creator are considering any type of course that you're trying to put together, that's absolutely fine. There are amazing companies out there, right? Like that offer the platform. You can place it on Patreon, you can place it on Kajabi, you can place it on even YouTube now offers for you to put like courses on native channel and basically have some payment up front. So there are a lot of tools out there. There are a lot of ways for you to do this. Just think through the strategy and keep coming back. And I'll show it one last time for this video. Keep coming back to this whole concept of the audience flow. Be very considerate about how much value you've already inputted into that piggy bank from your relationship with the viewers. How much of it will you extract and how quickly can they feel like they're gaining value from the type of course you're selling. If you strike the right balance between the course content itself, the price point that you're going to charge, and the type of value you provide, I promise you, your viewers will actually feel like they're getting a bargain and they would feel like they owe you something and they'll stick around for more. They're going to potentially buy more additional products from you or other services, right? You create loyalty by ensuring the balance of that piggy bank is always positive. And the courses, as I said, is one of those ways by which I saw creators kind of like torpedo their success, break the piggy bank and extract all the value without considering how they're going to maintain that relationship with the viewer. So just be thoughtful. Don't be greedy. There are many opportunities to do great things as a creator from a monetization perspective. And I know shelf life with different creators can be pretty short, but consider the reputation. I still subscribe and I live by that, famous old quote. I don't even know who it attributed to, but reputation takes years to build, second to destroy. So don't destroy your reputation in seconds. Continue building it up. The more and the better reputation you have, the more opportunities you will have to create a sustainable revenue for your creator brand without doing something as shady as starting Money Making Academy. I hope this was useful. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts. Maybe you've started a course before and tell us whether it was a success or a failure. I'm very curious what kind of experiences you've had with those so far, or if you bought courses, tell me if I missed any subcategories of courses that creators should avoid creating or actually should consider creating. Otherwise, I'll see you next Saturday. Peace.